Hi, it's me, Ingridine of P, and I'm going to be talking about auditory processing disorder. I don't think that I have auditory processing disorder or dyspraxia in themselves, but I do relate to certain aspects of it, and I'm not going to be diagnosed with these things. Thing is, these things are neurodevelopmental, like autism is. I'm late diagnosed autistic. And I think that these things might be linked. There might be a very high comorbidity rate between dyspraxia and autism, or auditory processing and autism, that kind of thing. Also, I think that it has helped me understand a little bit about how to make life easier for myself. So I think that it can be good for people to know about this condition, or disorder, or whatever we call it. Auditory is the ear, processing disorder. And so, as the name says, it's not about the actual hearing that is a problem, it's the processing of what is heard. So, what we're discussing is not problems with the ears, it's problems with the connections in the brain to understand what is being said. So you might hear the things, like the wavelengths come into your ear and awaken your, they come to your eardrum, and then they come and the whole process through the small ear bones down to the cochlea and all that is completely fine, but then it gets processed in the brain and the neuron connection is different there. So I don't have a huge problem with this. However, I do think that I have difficulties here. And I don't know if it's also because of my lack of different focus, the monotropic thinking that comes with autism. Also, I might have ADHD, even though, the diagnosticians said that I did not have ADHD. I still think that I have difficulty with, with my attention. And so if your attention is different, then it might also affect what you hear. But what happens is that I am listening, I'm sitting there and listening, and yet I might not understand what is being said. So often, because of my autism, also my interactions with other people will be different. For example, I don't look at people in the eye when I'm speaking to them. Often I am looking at their mouths to understand what they are saying. And, I guess that's an okay thing to do, but it's kind of like if I don't see the mouth, it is difficult for me to focus. Also, I take phone calls just in like a quiet room. It's really difficult for me to have a phone call when I'm out and about. I also have anxiety for phone calls, but that's another thing. So I like looking at people's mouths and kind of lip read at the same time as I'm hearing. Another thing is when I watch YouTube videos, I almost always have subtitles on because it helps me understand. I do like listening to YouTube videos at 1.25 times speed or 1.5 times speed, but I really cannot do that unless I have the subtitles on. I do listen to audiobooks, but it is hard for me to follow audiobooks. I don't know why I do this, but I do like listening to audiobooks. It's just that it takes me a lot of concentration to actually focus on what is being said, especially if I'm out and about. So I will miss certain things. Another thing is that when I have instructions that are quite complicated with several steps, I also have a problem with my short-term memory. So it's like I will remember the last thing that has been said, but then I would have forgotten the first thing that's been said. So I write things down a lot. When I am taking in patients, I am writing things down on a piece of paper. And yeah, some people do not like that I write things down. And it's like, well, I have to in order to remember what's been said. Also, another thing is that sometimes when you're talking to people, you don't want to ask them to repeat themselves all the time. So sometimes you just smile and nod and hope that that it wasn't that important. Or, I'll laugh when I really did not understand what was being said. Another thing is I have a hard time with accents. I do live in Sweden, which is not where I grew up, so sometimes people will speak in a way that isn't the way that I'm used to. I moved to the south of Sweden a short amount of time during my internship, and they have a really difficult accent to understand. And it took me a while, like, I didn't know what people were saying to me, and they didn't know what I was saying to them either. And it's like, well, this is just a dialect, and it's not even like the worst dialect, but it still was a difficulty for me. So I prefer having written instructions. I prefer things being written so that I can see them and refer back to them afterwards. I also dislike when there's a lot of extra noise around, because I can't pick up your voice among all the other voices as much. Like in bars, I just don't really like talking in bars where people are just like talking so loud and everything is so much, and I have so sensory overwhelm from all that overstimulation. And yeah, also another thing is that I don't understand lyrics. So I need the written lyrics in order to understand what's being said in the songs. I don't understand how people can listen to a song, and then like immediately know what they're saying. I was listening to Björk, and I really like her song Yoga. And that's a song that I like to listen on repeat. But for years, I thought that what she was saying, she said she does have a different way of saying words in her songs that isn't like really linear. So she goes emotional landscapes, and then she goes, the riddle gets solved. So the riddle gets solved, but I thought that she was saying, and the little cat is soft. And I always thought, oh, that's cool that she's talking about a cat. That has nothing to do with emotional landscapes. But it was a completely different sentence. And that happens to me quite a lot, and not just for Björk. It happens to me with almost every artist. Unless they are extremely clear in their wording, I will not understand the lyrics. And yeah, so also another thing is that I might misunderstand a pun, or if somebody says a joke, because there's so much to think about in social situations that I don't really, sometimes I don't pick up on things that people have said, and then like it's so awful to have to ask somebody to repeat, especially when it comes to a joke, because then they think that you didn't understand the joke, when really it just takes you a long time to process what has been said, or you just don't understand what has been said. So yeah, also the fact is that I'll have somebody say something, and then it will take me like 3 seconds before I actually understood what was being said. And so yeah, I might be a bad listener, but it's like my brain kind of drifts off, and then I'm back again. And another such thing is that I might seem like I'm very interested in lectures, like I'll sit there and I'll write things down and everything, but once again, it's because I need to write things down in order to organize my brain, but I can focus much better if I have the material written out, so that I can like annotate on the material, rather than like just having to listen to it and have the visuals separate, and by having the visual and the sound come at the same time, I can understand what's going on. So one thing that I like to do is I listen to audiobooks at the same time as I read the book. so that I can retain the information. So yeah, that's basically all I had to say about auditory processing disorder. I'm not sure if I have it, but there are certain aspects that I relate to. Tell me, guys, if you have any of these problems in your daily life, or if you think that you know about anything about the coupling between neurodivergence and auditory processing disorder. If you have anything else to add. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.